Hello, Steve Wilson from Grand Junction, Colorado, welcoming you to what I'm going to consider one of the neatest times we can spend. First of all, what is a correct diet? How can we eat to perform instead of just eating to fill our gut? And what are the consequences of not understanding this in terms of aches and pains and disease that's coming down the road? Simply put, you can tell from the beginning, you can literally discuss the end. And we know that since the vast majority of us know that the government has said, as have so many other institutions, that 90 to 95% of our diseases could be eliminated with a change of diet. Most of us don't know what a good diet is. We have been led to believe that you can eat what you'd like, and then it's just fatalism that gives you these diseases. And yet there are those people, such as myself, who changed. Now, when I brought this old body to the table, it was pretty racked up, and I decided to go back to the principles that I knew to be true, and I changed, and it took a few years, but I returned from something that was really dastardly. So with that in mind, let's look at this and say, here we are. What is a correct diet? Well, we're going to try to build energy. The things that we consume should build energy. Things that we consume should give us a proper immune system. It should enhance that. It shouldn't take it away from that. So in the carbohydrate department, let's build energy from that. ATP is the element that we're looking to build. It produces 95% of the energy of the body. So it would make sense to eat foods that developed ATP. Carbohydrates, sugars if you will produce 4 molecules of ATP per molecule of carbohydrate. Proteins will produce 4 molecules of ATP per molecule of protein. Well, how about fats? Fats have been ripped apart, told they were bad, and yet fats produce 129 molecules of ATP per molecule of fat. So the efficiency is about a 30-to-1 ratio. This gets to be really exciting if we're talking about mileage, if we're talking about performance, if we're talking about dust in the tissue, glue, if you will, toxins. So where can we find this? Well, I'm going to start with nuts and seeds. Yeah. Loaded with essential oils, loaded with essential fats, loaded with really quality, quick-burning protein that burns clean. Along with that, there are a host of things that are designed to protect us. Now, you can choose not to do this, and you can eat processed foods, cereals, and things of that nature that are highly processed, loaded with sugar, and loaded with things, elements that are really detrimental for your system. You can do that. And then when you don't have the energy, because the sugar only lasts for a short time, and then suddenly you have to deal with that again, so you keep it up, and that sugar finds its way into making fat because the blood will only control and handle so much sugar at a time. So we've pretty much figured out that the nutrients aren't in our soil, so they can't be in the plants, in the way they harvest them, the way they bring them to us, so we begin to supplement. And when you supplement, that brings into play another potential area of concern, because they're using inorganic salt minerals, rocks that are literally dead, have no DNA, no frequency to them whatsoever. And there's no way to get these things into the cell. But there's a price that's lower. And we look at it and we say, what's wrong with this one? Because my doctor just told me there's no difference in calcium, so go out there and buy it. Well, there is a difference. There's a difference between organic and inorganic. Well, if that's the case, then we're going to be, as we have proven, we're going to be buying nutrients that produce energy. Shakes, soy shakes, all those types of things, dairy shakes from whey and things of that nature that are designed to give you energy in high protein. Understanding that when protein metabolizes, it goes to an acid, all of it. So the more efficient that we can make our body by using things that produce large amounts of ATP, it would make sense to do that as opposed to putting something into our body that creates acidity. And so the question that we suddenly are faced with is we have got to understand what we put into our body, because only in an acidic world do we find disease. And we also find fatigue, and that's not acceptable to the human body. So we find ourselves taking in supplements and energy drinks that are loaded with sugar, loaded with things that are really not good for you. Well, once you've done this to your body, and you begin to have the pains and the fatigues and the aches and the depression and all of these issues that seem to come from that, then we begin to look to the pharmaceutical side to cover it up, to allow us to keep doing this, because this is not natural. And therein, we really have invited in some nasties. In fact, if you look at the physician's desk reference material, it's a big book. They're selling for around $800 or $900 now for physicians to look at the consequences of drugs. And 80% of that book is made up of the consequences or the side effects of taking drugs. What would happen if I could introduce you into an alternative way using essential oils? These are derivatives from the plant that are antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral. I mean, just to mention that word, when we're talking about the issues that we live in today with the viruses and all of the flu bugs and these things that just are in the air, it would make sense to eat things that allowed your body to become its own doctor, its own protector. Build your own immune system rather than using pharmaceutical. It would be a place to start. I'm not saying it's total, but it certainly makes a start. Well, when you enter into the world of essential oils, there are things that you need to understand, because this is a very, very potent world. And there's an enormous amount of deception in that world, of which we will entertain and do a wonderful job for you so that you can understand what we're talking about. But I do want to take you into a world, just a moment, of a friend of mine that I worked with to give you a walking, talking example. This is a friend of mine that is a school teacher, retired, has his master's degree in special ed, and worked with those kids for 30 years. He was going to school in Greeley, and you can tell it's in the 1960s. He's got his own poodle there and his long hair, and he's ready. He was a prestigious athlete in New Jersey, played football, and he came out here to become a school teacher to offer his incredible ability to communicate with kids and move in an area of special ed, which is such a needed area. And he was so good. I'm so proud of him. But after 30 years, when I met him, I didn't recognize him, but this is a picture that he's showing me. He's recovering from cancer. He's in Hawaii, he and his wife, and they're just, pretty happy to be alive. And he told me he ate with the kids. And this is the funny part. He wanted to become part of their life, so he ate with them. Well, if that's the case, then what hope is it that our kids have that are doing the same thing? And I see them on the street. They're going for the fast foods. They're going for the processed foods. And if they knew at the end of that particular road, something like this could be a part of their life, I wonder if they would change. But who is there to really show them the incredible difference between a lifestyle where you're full of energy, you don't ache, and you don't have all the pains, possibly. You're not dealing with high blood pressure, and perhaps you're not dealing with the obesity issue that is so pronounced and prevalent in our country. What an interesting place to start. Well, when I met Rick, we were on our way to Israel, and lo and behold, this is after he went through the surgeries and all of the chemo and things like this. A couple of years later, got his nutrition changed, got him doing some things in a correct fashion. In 2 years, he and I are hiking the mountains. Now, this is a remarkable story because the life that he was looking at was not a pretty one. In fact, fatigue and sitting and just not enjoying retirement was part of his life. Now suddenly, he's doing 8, 9, 10 miles a day in the mountains. And when I first took him up a little 3-mile run, it was all we could do to get to the top. In fact, as I recall, we didn't get to the top. But now he's on his own and he's doing a wonderful job. What we want to talk about is making that change. And it really talks about those of us that want to be a part of your life, to be not only available for you to lean on, ask questions of, and support you, hold you accountable, and you hold us accountable, because you see, we've got to participate and be exactly what we're telling you about. And here I am in my mid-70s, and I'm healthier than I've been in 25 years. But it took a tipping point experience for me to make the change. And I returned to the principles under which I was raised. And there are so many that's going to be a part of this that you can look to and say, gosh, they've done a wonderful job. So the question is, do you have to go through what we did to turn it around? It would be much easier, I can tell you, to avoid some of these diseases, ranging from diabetes to cardiovascular issues to pulmonary fibrosis, a host of these things that are right on the very edge and desiring to take over your body so that you cannot enjoy it. This could be a real fun thing for you. Show an incredible increase in your cognitive skills. These are proofs from MIT, studies that tell us that we can increase your functionality academically and physically in recovery, and really create in your body your own defense system so that you perhaps don't have to work and live with some of the evils of disease. And I would want you to know that they are out there. In fact, I'm going to display to you a change. This is my son. He's in his 40s now, and he's an incredible climber, and he's the one that got me started in this. So am I climbing? I do a little bit, but my basic life is just to run in the mountains and just enjoy that fresh air. 20 years ago, wasn't part of my life. Couldn't do it. Made some changes, everything went away. And I brought to the table a pretty beat up, battered old body full of arthritis, full of a little bit of obesity, a little bit of high blood pressure, and not wanting to go down that way. Now I've got 10 grandchildren, they all live here, and I can run with them in the mountains. That was not going to happen 20 years ago. So it's with that in mind that if we could possibly do this, would you join me in understanding the bridge that we've built for you to understand and deal with the emotional side of eating, with the physical side, with the financial side? What I'm telling you is not expensive. In fact, it's incredibly, incredibly inexpensive to eat this way. And the benefits will last you forever. To end this whole thing, it's kind of a simple thing. There is a price for everything that we do. You pay something, you pay monies for something. I'm not so worried about the price, but I am worried about the cost for you, because the cost could be your physical well-being and your emotional well-being. These are things that we genuinely want to touch base with you. Thank you so much. Join me at thenefesh.com, and we will continue this educational thing, allow you to get to our products and to understand how we've addressed this thing in the purest of ways.